Hi, welcome to another episode of The Sax Hack. I took this horn into my local repair shop. They instantly said, we don't want to touch it. So that was a little demoralizing. So I went to work on the dents, and I'm really happy with my progress down here on this dent. I'll show you a close-up, but I got that almost level, and I got it to where the keys close over the tone holes like they're supposed to. So I want to show you my DIY dent rod that I used to get most of this dent out. Ready? Here it is. It's an eye hook from Lowe's. It's got a very smooth stainless steel tip on it. It's round, and I just stuck this in the hole and worked it back and forth. I needed more leverage, so I made a handle, and here's my handle. If it wasn't winter, I think what I would do is attach this eye hook to a longer board and maybe mount it onto my workbench in the garage so that this would be really fixed and permanent, and then I could just work the horn back and forth. It was a little harder working this back and forth across the dent. What I did was, with these keys off, I just came in through the E-flat key hole, and then I just pushed up on here. I often use this key guard as leverage, which I was a little nervous about because I didn't want to pop that off or anything. At some points I put something across here, and then I put my tool in there and then was able to move it up and down and use this as leverage. It took a lot of force to push that dent up. Here, let me show you. This was essentially the idea. I'll put this in the hole and then push up like this, pushing down against this key guard, and worked this back and forth like this across the dent, and that worked pretty well. I also tried to use these C-clamps, but I couldn't really get the right angle with it. Could be in the other dent. These will work okay. But I'm encouraged by my progress. I have keys that close now, and that was the whole point. Like I say, this horn's never going to be pretty, but it's closer to being playable. I'm going to tackle the other dent today. So after my success with the other dent, I'm a little more confident about tackling this one. This one that has the missing post. It goes all the way up to here and here. So in order to get at it, I need to remove these keys here. Let's see how easy that is on a 1937 horn. Here's a closer look at one of the rods coming out with my homemade screwdriver. Again, what a joy that these are coming out so easily. This was a public school horn, so even though it was battered by students, it might have been regularly maintained by somebody. And you know, if it doesn't just sit in the closet forever and in a damp environment and start to rust, then everything stays nice and loose. So this is really nice. So I didn't pull the springs on this yet, and you see the rod is too tight to pull, but when I pop the springs off, and some of these are just, you can just do it with your finger there, loosens up the tension. Look at that, just comes right out now. So easy peasy. Pretty happy with those pads. Of course, the lower pads on the saxophone last twice as long as the upper stack because they don't get saliva on them all the time when you play. But still, I won't have to fuss with those. Alrighty, so I got the keys off, and now you can see the dent, and I can get at it right through here. Yeah. So, you know, with the baritone sax, you can't go in either end, right? I'm not going to take the tube apart. That would be crazy. And up on the top, they have this kind of a neck, so you can't go down like you could with a tenor or an alto. So the only way to remove these dents is to go in through the tone holes. Let me figure out the best way to get at those. I think I'm just going to take all the keys off of this. I'll probably want to look at everything anyways. I notice here, right here where the missing post is, watch this rod as I turn it. I don't know if you can tell that, but it is a little warped. It's a little bent from the accident that it had. And this rod is hard to get out, probably because it's not as straight as it should be. Ever straighten a nail when you're pounding a nail in and it bends? You lay it down flat, pound it on the top part of the bend, and you roll it over. I'm going to do something similar with this rod once I get it out. Alrighty, progress. I got most of the keys off. I had to take a little bit of the upper stack off, which I didn't really want to do, but now I'm really getting access to this dent area. And what I would really like to do is get a C-clamp inside this tone hole and just pull that dent out with the clamp pressure. In order to do this, I don't want to dent it any more than it already is. So what I need to do is put something inside that's long, like a piece of wood, and then that'll pull up against the dent. Maybe something even with a little curvature to it, like a piece of quarter round. And then across the top, when I tighten this clamp down, I can't just tighten down here because that's just going to work against itself and push the dent back in where it is. So I need something to give me some leverage, and I'm thinking some kind of a piece of wood that can go across here. Maybe that could slide down over these posts and spread out the pressure. I think I can make this work. Let's try. I found the perfect thing. This is just a piece of scrap wood. I put a little 320 sandpaper on it, and I use this as my sax hack method of leveling tone holes. Yeah, it's probably not perfect, but it's flat and it's small enough so I can use it on smaller holes, and then I can use it on larger holes if I need to. So this is just sitting on my workbench. What I realized is it's about the right length, and if I just make a couple of holes where these two posts are, I can put this thing right across here and clamp against it. I'm excited. So what I did is I just pushed this hard against the post and wiggled it so that I could see where I need to drill holes. Made a couple of marks on here. Now I'm going to drill that out and see if I can slide that on there and then start clamping. I'm excited. I'm really getting optimistic. There, I made the holes bigger than I needed to on purpose, and that's going to fit down right over those posts and give me a nice place to pull. One thing is I have to get rid of this spring. Anybody who's worked on saxophones before realizes what a bane these needle springs are. I don't know why they have to have these sharp edges on them like needles. You know, I've seen some springs for sale that don't have sharp edges, like this one right here. This thing has kind of got a dull end, and it's still springy. I don't know why they don't make all springs like that, so it saves the fingers of all the techs out there in the world. But this spring here has to come out, and they make interesting tools to do this, which I don't have, of course. So I'm just gonna try to tap that out somehow, unless I just cut this. Oh well, plan B, I'll cut it. That'd be easy. See you in a second. Okay, so that was easy. Now this thing slides right down over the spring. And I'm getting really close to what I need. If you look at this, you can see that you can see the dented in area, and then this nice straight edge is going to pull it flat, I hope. The problem is this piece of wood is hitting this tone hole right here. And so I need to notch this wood around the tone hole so I don't dent that any more than it is. Stay tuned. Alrighty. I just cut a little notch in that with my jigsaw, and that works well. It keeps it from pushing down on the edge of that tone hole. And come and take a look this way. So you can see that this board makes contact over here on the end and over here on this end, and then in the middle you can see this almost ½ inch gap right here. So if I clamp it, it's going to pull up, right? The problem is over here on the edge there's only this one point of contact. This wood is touching the body of the horn, and I'm afraid that when I clamp it's going to push down and dent that. So I want to protect that. I want to make something with a curve matching the curvature of the body. And what I think I'm going to use is one of these little mending brackets. I'm just going to try to bend that to the right shape, and that'll spread the force out over an area. So I'm going to work on that now. Whoop, I am ready to clamp. I got my two protectors. I got my board to pull against. I'm just gonna pull that dent right out of there. Here we go. Dent pulling sax hack. One of the challenges of this is that I had to get a little board inside there to put the clamp on so that it wouldn't just dent. You can see I've used a little piece of quarter round in there, and so that's going to push up while I push down from the top. Well, it took some doing. I had to cut that piece of wood that I have inside down a little bit, but now it seems to be holding, and I am tightening and tightening. See that gap getting smaller? Something has to give here, and I think it's going to be the dent. It's definitely pushing down hard on the wood. Probably sagging the wood in the middle some, but I'm guessing that dent's coming up. Ooh, it's getting really tight. The gap is shrinking. Part of it is that the wood is bending, but I bet that did some good. Let's see. Oh my God, that worked way better than I expected it to. Look at that. There's that missing post. Still a little dimple, little dent, but remember there was a sizable gap right here. That's gone. This gap is still pretty big, and there's still kind of a dent here around this post. So I'm going to do it again, maybe from this tone hole. But man, I am so excited at how well that worked.